Oscar Tango, good morning.
Welcome back, everybody. And if you're new to the channel, welcome to Lesotho's Pride. My name is Khotso, and in today's episode, we're going to be looking at a flight from Victoria Falls to Linkwasha in Zimbabwe. We are on board a very famous safari air operator in Southern Africa, and that is Wilderness Air. So, comment below if you've heard of Wilderness Air before, and tell me, which countries do you think they operate in the Southern African region? In addition, I have invited a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Tinashe, who is the flight operations manager as well as a Cessna caravan pilot for Wilderness Air at their Botswana base. So as we're flying from Victoria Falls to Linkwasha, Tinashe is going to tell us what his initial interview experience was like versus what the interview process is like now. In addition, he's going to tell us what his initial operating experience is like in a bush operator versus an airline. Now, it's not very easy to get this kind of information, especially in the public domain. So I would highly recommend that you like this video, subscribe, so that you can get more insights in the future. We'll also be looking into what are the landing procedures in a bush airstrip, in a safari airstrip, and lastly, we'll end off with what he thinks is going to be the future of aviation in the Southern African region. The world over, aviation has taken a hard knock during these difficult times in 2020 as well as in 2021. Each region has their own dynamics in terms of how the aviation industry is doing. Some of it's not doing too well. Some of it is starting to see some green shoots. So he's going to give us his opinion, his take on what the aviation industry in this particular region, the Southern African region, is going to look like in the coming years. And so without further ado, let's get into the video.
Okay, so welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So let's start with, if you could introduce yourself for us.
Right, my name is Tinashe Chisewe, a pilot and flight operations manager for Wilderness Air Botswana now. My journey with knowing you started in Bloemfontein, Westline Aviation.
That's true.
Where I did my training up to CPL level on and I finished it on twin engine and IF. Mm-hmm. Then after that, left for my country, home country, Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. Well, things were tough then in Zim. Really, no jobs. The airline had shut down. That was about 2011, and then eventually
Air Zimbabwe had shut down, was it?
Air Zimbabwe closed its doors. Yeah. I remember the first interview I had. I had a 737 first officer with about 5,000 to 6,000 hours with me in that interview. So it just tells you the situation that was there. But as time went on, I managed to get a job after an interview in 2013 with Wilderness. Mm-hmm. And then they called me in 2014 April, started off with Wilderness. Now, they operate two types of machines, Cessna Caravan 208, the Legacy, and also the 206, Cessna 206. Cessna 206, we used to carry about 4 passengers, and the Caravan 12 passengers. So I started my training, line training. So the difference, I think maybe from what you were saying, to say, look, how we want to show people the difference between maybe what you do in flight school and what ends up happening operationally is a bit different. The basics of what you're taught remain the same, but what changes now is the operational culture as what you need to do for operations. You're now flying a schedule. You're now flying passengers. You are not training anymore. You are not doing any exercises. Now point A to point B safely, understand that operating procedures. That's exactly what it is. So Wilderness would takes you, if you are successful with the interview now, then it was a bit different, but now it's you do a technical exam, which involves almost all subjects, meteorology, aircraft technical general. Of course, it will be more specific to a 206, but also generally, everything, navigation, the whole works. And if you pass that, then you obviously have more of like a character assessment form that they use. It's like a tool they use to check your personality. And then if you're successful with those, now you do about 3 circuits in a 206. So meaning in Zimbabwe, if you're going to come from an interview, chances are they need you to be rated and current on a 206.
Right.
So just to assess, we've got our big guy there is he's an instructor and a flight designated examiner. So he goes up with you for about 3 circuits, or just to see, give you different scenarios. So in there, it's all about how you handle the aircraft, your demeanor, your procedures. They will not really give you the SOP, but how you fly it, it's fine. Your situational awareness, because you're most probably doing it around Victoria Falls Airport. So there's other traffic, there's helicopters over the falls, there's all that stuff. You just want to check how you do that. Then if you're successful after that, you get the job. But it's not the end of the road. When you do get the job, then there is what, obviously in every organization, is orientation. You get to know what flight ops is, you get to understand the safety culture, you get to understand training culture, you get to understand, quality side of things, how they do their 90-day records, their processes, or what paperwork is required from you, issues to do with company recency, company procedures, all that stuff. You are given all the material to read and understand, and you sign off on it. Then from there, you get a briefing on the 206, if you're coming in for the 206, and then you start what they call 50 left seat of flying. Sorry, right seat. So 50 right seat is basically getting to know where we fly into, what it looks like, how we do the operation, while an active online pilot shows you what's going on. So you can assist in so many things, like how you handle the bags, what's our turnaround time at an airfield, what flight levels do we fly up to, what briefings do we give guests, how do we interact with local guys on the ground, like guides and whatnot. What do we do when we have since we fly in the bush, what do we do when we have an animal on the runway? Or what's our way of operating? So that's 50 hours on the left, on the right, which means the only thing you're not doing is you don't have control.
Okay. So how long would those 50 hours take then, on average?
On average, the thing is, it depends. When I joined, we were 2 of us who joined at the same time.
Okay.
So, and we only had, I think, 2 other training captains. So it's certain people that can train, the other people can't. So it took a bit longer. I would say I joined in April, and I went online in August.
Okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Because your training is part of operational flying. So you don't just take a plane and go. So you find that there's a time when the 206 is full, so they can't take an extra person. So you remain behind. Or there's a time where there's actually no clients to fly, so you just sit. So my line training, which was a total of 100 hours, 50 on the right and 50 on the left, it took me up to August. That's when I went online.
So
then you sign a full contract.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you're on probation, so to speak, while you're.
You have what they call it's called a training contract. So you've got 50 on the right and 50 on the left.
Okay.
On the left now, you are actually the pilot in command, but under supervision. So now you obviously start with empty legs. If there's an empty leg to go and pick up in Linkwasha, for example, that's what you fly. A captain assesses, okay, fine, he can do it. Then you put passengers on board. Why? Because you're basically dealing with low-time people. Such jobs, usually you're getting guys who've got 250 hours straight, fresh out of flying school. So, for example, they've never understood I'll give you a simple scenario, like how you do in flight school. Whenever you finish a flight, what happens? You go and fill up the plane.
Yep.
That's how it generally just happens. Because why? You're only 2 of you in the plane, you and your instructor. But now you come to a scenario where you have 3 other passengers, 4 other passengers. In a caravan, you've got 10 other passengers. You are not used to having a heavy aircraft. You're not used to all those things. So they quickly ease you into that scenario and into understanding how operations go. So you do the 50. After you've done the 50 left, then you do a route check or a pre-route check where your captain brings you, a training captain goes with you. He checks if you're ready. If you're ready, that's fine. Then another captain.
Is it with passengers or is it you're just you and the training captain?
Yes.
Okay.
With passengers.
All right.
Because he's not just checking your flying. He's also checking your briefings. He's also checking your handling of baggage. He's also checking your handling of passengers and everything. So it's a holistic thing.
Sure.
So that was me, 2014, August. That's when I went online and I was signed out and signed a full contract for a Cessna 206 pilot. Single crew operation. And we would fly into places like Linkwasha, which we did. We also went into places like Kariba. We went into places like Manapools, all the way up to Harare, and vice versa, all the way back to the falls. That was generally our route. Okay. So yeah, that's basically the intro to how I joined Wilderness and how it started.
Doesn't climb like a Boeing, does it?
Still better than the PA-28. Got a bit more power.
Yeah.
Now just going back to that flight that we had done. Like you said, I mean, we had flown from Victoria Falls to Linkwasha, and which was a nice eye-opening experience for me as well, just to see how Wilderness Air does its operations over there, and flying with actual passengers too. I have to give a shout out to your boss at the time for allowing that. So thank you to him. But yeah,
he's still my boss.
Still your boss, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
In Botswana, yeah.
But yeah, just going back to that experience, could you talk us through the approach and the landing to Linkwasha?
If I'm not mistaken, what we did was we came in from Victoria Falls, basically, maybe to give people an overview of what's happening. We were coming in from the west of the airstrip. I'm now forgetting the runway orientation. I haven't flown there in such a long time.
Zulu Oscar Tango, 8 miles to the field, we're positioned for a 5-mile left base for runway 03. Any traffic, Zulu Oscar Tango?
I can't quite remember the runway orientation. What I do remember is, so we took off Victoria Falls, exited the TMA, you had to give a timing, and then I forgot who you contacted. You contacted someone else.
So what happened was we took off Victoria Falls, which is at that time a 30 nautical mile boundary TMA. But because we don't have radar, Victoria Falls will work on estimates. So you have to give them an estimate of your exit out of the TMA. And then there was a dead space we call the unmanned area between Victoria Falls TMA and then Wange National Park TMA. So now the Wange National Park TMA, so we do the what we call an unmanned procedure or an unmanned radio call to tell people where you're coming from, where you're going, and how long you're in that dead space, and what level you are. So we did that, and then once we got to the Wange TMA, we speak to Wange traffic control, and Linkwasha is within that TMA.
That TMA, right.
Yeah. So yes.
No, so
now our procedure was we get there.
Yeah.
As an unmanned airstrip, as much as Wilderness has people on the ground to clear the airstrip 20 minutes before arrival, it is still the prerogative of the PIC, pilot in command, to check the airstrip and to be satisfied that it's clear. So our approach into Linkwasha was to fly straight over the field. Once we fly over the field at 1,500 foot, we can observe the windsock. We can check the runway surface as best we can. We can check if there are any animals. It's very difficult to miss an elephant there. And then after that, we then descend into Wange National, and that it was a right. We'd go down, right downwind and right base up to final.
Yeah.
After we've flown, and that's what we did. And then, yeah, you come in straight and you land. So a bit different from what you'd most probably learn in flight school, where they would say come in 1,000 foot or 2,000 foot above.
Yes, yes.
But we came in 1,500 foot above.
Okay.
As soon as we got over the field, we started descending to 1,000 foot, and we lost another 500 on base and 500 on final, and we landed.
Okay guys, as I edit this video, I have come to a realization that this video is too long and it needs to be made into 2 parts. So this is going to be episode 8A, and then next week's episode is going to be episode 8B. So thank you very much for joining in and watching for episode 8A, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's episode.